Welcome third and fourth graders to St. Mark Festival of 2025 with Mrs. Demi. Lesson 4. My faith is my refuge. We'll learn about Abraham, the man of faith, in Genesis 11 through 22. Learning about Abraham teaches us that when you have strong faith and trust in God, you feel safe and it's a refuge. Abraham's life showed how much he trusted God's promises. Even though he faced many tough times, his faith in God was very strong. By faith, Abraham offered obedience. Genesis 12, 1 through 9. Abraham was born in a city called Ur of the Chaldeans. This was a very rich and well-known city. Abraham lived there with his brothers, his father Terah, and his wife Sarah. Abraham's faith in God was shown through his actions, not only his words. Abraham was so obedient. He did everything God asked of him right away without questioning him. God chose Abraham to be the father of his own people. God called Abraham because he was righteous in the eyes of God. Why did God want his own people? First, he wanted a faithful nation that believed in him and would preach his commandments to the surrounding nations that were living in sin. Secondly, he was preparing a nation from which our Lord Jesus Christ would be born to save the whole world from sin. By faith, Abraham offered love, as we read in the book of Genesis, chapter 13, verses 1 through 18. When there was a conflict between Abraham's shepherds and Lot's shepherds, Abraham tried to make peace because he trusted that God would take care of everything. Abraham asked Lot to choose the land that he would like to live in, while he would take the side that Lot didn't choose. This showed Abraham's love for Lot and his faith and trust that God would take care of him. God blessed Abraham by promising that the land he saw would be for him and his descendants. God blessed Abraham by promising that Abraham didn't have any children. Even though he was so old, Abraham had faith in God that one day he would have a child because God promised him many times that his descendants would be as many as the stars of heaven and the sand on the seashore. Abraham always trusted God's words. The Holy Bible says, "And he believed in the Lord, and he accounted it to him for righteousness." Genesis 15:6. Abraham continued to trust in the Lord. One day, while he was sitting at the door of his tent, 3 men visited him. It was the Lord himself with 2 angels. The Lord told Abraham that around the same time next year, his wife Sarah will have a son. And that's what we read in Genesis 18, verses 1 through 15. And just as the Lord promised, Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90 years old when they had a son. They named him Isaac. They were so happy that God kept his promise. And even though they were very old, they had a child just as God has said. With God, nothing is impossible. One day, God tested Abraham. He asked him to offer his son Isaac as a sacrifice. And although this was a difficult command, God is merciful. He knew that Abraham would not fail this test and that he would obey. God allowed this test to show Abraham's faith and righteousness to the world. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, concluding that God was able to raise him even from the dead. Hebrews 11:17 through 19. Abraham obeyed God. He took his son Isaac to offer him as a sacrifice. However, because God is merciful, he provided the ram to Abraham to offer instead of Isaac. Then God said, "Because you have done this thing, and have not withheld your son, your only son, blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven and as the sand of the seashore. And your descendants shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed all nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice." Genesis 22:16 through 18. God rewarded Abraham for his strong faith and trust in his promises. The greatest blessing of all was the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ from Abraham's descendants. This teaches us that having faith and trust in God leads to blessings. Let's say the verse together. Because you have obeyed my voice. Genesis 22:18.